Hello and welcome to this webinar from Proposals for NGOs. I'm very sorry for the delay. We had some technical issues, so I couldn't connect before. But I'm very happy to see that you are here and that you joined us for this webinar about donor networking. My name is Eva. And welcome to this webinar from Germany, and I've been working for Proposals for NGOs basically for the last 2 years. Issues, so I couldn't get my PhD from the University of Hamburg. But I'm very happy to see that you are here and that you joined us for this 2019, so last year. And I have worked in the fundraising field pretty much for the last 10 years, mostly with small grassroots NGOs in Nepal and South America and in Europe. And today we're going to talk about donor networking, this very important part, and I have worked in your fundraising cycle pretty much for the last 10 years. This is a live webinar, so I hope that everything works out now, but you never know. So if you experience any technical difficulties, please just let us know and type it into the comment field. It would also be nice if you would let us know if you can hear me clearly. This is a live any issues with the audio, any issues with that everything works out the visual, but you never know. So if you all of that. If you have questions, you can type them in. We will have a dedicated time for questions at the end where I can answer. I will give my best to answer all your questions. Any issues or networking, any issues with if you're interested to broad visual, but you never know. Well. And it's worth sticking with us to the end. We'll have a dedicated time for this webinar, and then we have time to answer all your questions. Give my best to you can type them in while I'm talking, or just save them for the last bit when we have this slide up that says questions, and you can type them into the comment box at the end, and I will try my best to get to all of your and then we have time to answer all your questions. You can type them in. I would say we just dive right into or just donor networking. It's a very important topic that many NGOs neglect, and you can type them into the comment box. They think they can kind of get around it. Networking can be difficult. There's some people who love networking, who love talking, who are very open, and it's very easy for them to create a network. Some of us don't have such an easy time doing that. So I belong to that group. I'm not the one to always socialize first at a party. I'm not the one to do the small talk. So this part has always been hard for me, and in the past I sometimes tried to avoid it. But over the last years I realized that what a big mistake that was. I belong to donor networking actually is the one to always socialize first at a party. I'm not the one. So yeah, so let's get started with the PowerPoint. That's always been hard for me, and in the past I sometimes tried to avoid it. And everything over the last years I realized that what a big mistake that was. I belong to donor networking actually is the one to always socialize first at a party. I'm not the one. So yeah, so let's get started with the PowerPoint. That's always been hard for me, and in the past I sometimes tried to avoid it. And everything over the last years I realized that what a big mistake that was. Okay, so you should all be able to see the PowerPoint now. If it works, yeah, so let's get started. Okay. And in the past I sometimes tried to avoid it. And everything over the last years I realized that what a big mistake that was. Okay, so you should all got one message that says the audio is very bad. Let's see if I. So this part is always been hard for me, and in the past I sometimes tried to avoid it, and everything. Okay, there seems to be a problem with the audio, so I'll just try to fix it. Is it better now? Can you hear me more clearly now? I'm not sure what is the issue here, so I just hope it's better now. Okay, audio is good now. Great. I'm very sorry. So I guess I have to repeat some stuff now that I said before. So again, to let you in, my name is Eva. I've been working for proposals for NGOs for the last 2 years, and I'll just try to give you an introduction to donor networking today, which is a very important part of the fundraising. Again, I'm very sorry for this problem in the beginning. It's difficult for me to see it here, so we'll just get started. So donor, it still says donor research, is supposed to say donor networking. Donor networking, why is it important? To many NGOs, it seems to be not very important and just a side note that you can just do on the side, that is not important. But it's not true. Donor networking should be an essential part of your fundraising cycle. And today we will talk mostly about how you can do it, which are the easiest ways to connect with a donor, and how you can approach a new donor, and what are the things that you have to look out to be successful in your networking. But I also want to say a couple of words about the why part of donor networking, because over and over I hear things like, okay, but the quality of a proposal should speak for itself, or we don't have to network. We can just start right away. And this is just not the case, unfortunately, because we humans just work that way, that they are always more prone to support and help people that they know, that they have a personal connection to. And we tend to remember things better when they are tied to some personal fact or some personal connection to us. So if you imagine a donor gets 100 proposals, and has to read them all, an officer, but one proposal is from a friend, of course they will look more favorably on that proposal. It doesn't guarantee anything, but if there's a prior connection with that person who sent that proposal over, the probability is much higher that they will remember what is in that proposal. It's a little bit, you can compare it to personal connections as well. Of course, the goal of connecting with donors, the goal of fundraising is to get money for your project. Everybody knows that, and we don't have to beat around the bush there. But still, donors want to know that you are interested in some kind of deeper connection in a partnership, and they don't only see them as cash cows. It would be a little bit as if I would come to you and say, hi, my name's Eva, can you give me $100, like that. Nobody would give me any money, obviously, because nobody knows me. I don't have a connection. If I ask someone with a good concept, like I say, I have an idea, I want to do this and that, can you support me? After we've established a relationship, after they know me, after they know how I work, what I do, after they've seen that I'm willing to support them as well, maybe my chances would be better to get $100 from someone. And you kind of have to look at networking this way. You are establishing a relationship with a potential donor that can turn into something lucrative, that can turn into a relationship that will actually pay you money, but doesn't necessarily have to. I think one important thing that we will talk about later as well is that you kind of have to get away from the notion that the only thing you can get from a donor is money. There's many other things that you can get from good relationships with donors. You can get information, you can get recommendations, you can get experience, you can get manpower, you can get other resources. All of these things you can get from a good relationship with a potential donor. Maybe you will also get money, which will help you, but these other things might be even more helpful. So you have to look at your networking not as like a straight line from you talking to someone and then necessarily getting money, but as a process to establish a relationship with them, a relationship of trust that you can use in the future to gain something from it. So we will talk a little bit about how to network now and the different ways this is possible. But you also have to know, in most of our materials, we always talk about how you can write the perfect proposal answering to a call. We talk a lot about eligibility, about how You can tailor your proposal towards a call, towards guidelines, etc. But you have to know that a lot of the funds is assigned through contracts, not through open calls. Because you can imagine, if you have an open call for proposals, you'll get many applications, and that's a lot of work. Donors will get applications from people they don't know. They will get applications for projects that they don't know that might be risky, and many donors don't want that. They would rather prefer to work with people they already know, and they will always prefer to award money through contracts, through relationships that they've already established. So networking is very important, because of course you can only get a contract if they know you. You can only get in on this kind of fundraising if you have relationships with these potential donors. So yeah, what is donor networking? It describes the process of connecting with a donor before you submit a proposal to establish a relationship with them, in very narrow terms. In broader terms, like I said before, it doesn't always have to be the wish to submit a proposal. You can also be after other things, and it's always good to be well connected in your field, because you never know what kind of things you will gain from that in the future. You might one day need a partner, you might need a recommendation, there might be something unexpected happening that you have to deal with. So to make it a little bit more personal, and maybe to also give you the opportunity to relate a little bit to why donor networking is so important, I want to share a little bit of my own story. Because like I said, I don't always have the easiest time socializing at events and stuff. I'm not the best small talker. I wouldn't say that I'm a great networker, but over the years I had to realize that it is important, and that I have my own way of networking, which is different but still works, and that is beneficial for the organizations I've worked with. So for example, in the beginning of my own fundraising story, I always just answered to calls. Basically, my fundraising for different organizations, mainly in South America, was a little bit uncoordinated. But over the course of time, I've learned how to write a strategy, how to organize my donor research properly. But I never really got warm with networking, to be honest. Like I said, I'm not that kind of person who just walks up to someone and says, "Hi, this is our project. We are great, and help us." Or that's what I thought was what networking was. But we've applied for grants in South America, in Ecuador, in Nepal. We've worked in our field, and I always connected with other people, because I thought not so much about money, but I thought maybe one day we can work together. I can benefit from their experiences. I was also writing my PhD, so exchanging information with people, exchanging data was always very interesting for me. So I established my own kind of network without asking for direct support or direct help, but asking for other things, for information, and also providing information. I shared my research, I shared my knowledge, I went to other organizations and talked with them about how they approach things, and shared our approach. So I was doing quite well in that regard. And then the earthquake happened. And in Nepal, while I was working with a small organization. Actually, this picture is from 1 year after the earthquake, of the farmers that I worked with in the mid-hills in Nepal. And it was overwhelming, and I didn't even know where to ask for money, because I was overwhelmed. It was like a daily struggle for basically survival for the people I was working with. We were in the same situation, so I didn't have a head to write a proposal. I didn't have the head to research anything. So the one thing I realized in that situation is that it is very important to be well prepared in these situations. The other thing I realized is that my network, that I never really considered a fundraising network, came through. Foundations contacted me and said, "Oh, we know you're working in this area. You've told us before about what you were doing. Can we help you? We have these 5,000 euros that we can spend. What would you do with it?" And I just had to say, "Oh, we need to build toilets." And they just gave us the money without a big hassle, because we had this established relationship. if I would have approached them for the first time, they would have said, oh, I don't know you, and this is like a chaotic situation. We don't know what's happening in Nepal. We'd rather wait. But they knew us, not because I had asked them for money necessarily before, or because I was always after the money, but because we had this established relationship. And there were other NGOs, private people who came through. So we were actually able to do a lot for the people. And that is basically when I realized that networking is so much more than just connecting with donors, with potential donors. It's you always network. How you present yourself, how you present your work, how you present yourself professionally, all of that belongs to the field of networking and is very important in the end. And networking does help you. It's not the thing that is just that you just do because you feel like you have to do it. It's something that actually has a huge benefit, and not only in disaster situations, but always, because there always might be a need where you suddenly need something and people will support you if they know you. Or maybe one day there's an open call and you apply and they will remember your name and they will know, oh, this organization has already supported us with data one day. This organization has already reached out 5 years ago when we didn't have a call. So they will see you in a different way. This story also highlights the importance of preparing for disaster, though. And just to quickly pitch something here, we also have a course about that, because it also made me realize how important it is to prepare for potential disaster, especially if you are working in areas where this is prone to happen. So in Nepal, we knew that there was going to be an earthquake at some point. I could have been prepared much better, I realized now after the thing happened. And we have a specific course about that, which is reacting to disasters, that you can check out on our homepage. Okay, so just to give you an idea about why I feel like networking is so important. But of course, we will, this is a very, very broad definition of networking, which you should keep in mind. And you should always you keep in mind when you work, when you present yourself, the way you carry yourself professionally, etc. But now we will talk a little bit more specific about how you can connect with potential donors, with donors that actually fund in your field, and how you can think about how to establish a relationship with them. So the important thing is that you develop a systemic approach, because many organizations see networking as something that can be done on the side, that everybody does a little bit of, but nowhere is there any database about which connections you have, which email addresses you collected, etc. The best example for this for me is every time you go to a conference, you probably get home with a pile of business cards. And then you put them somewhere. If you are organized, maybe you put them into a database, but then seldomly something's done with them. But all these cards, all these small talk conversations you had with these people are valuable. And you should find a systemic approach to catalog them and to be able to take advantage of these informations. And also how you approach something, because if you systemically plan your fundraising, if you already know, okay, this year we're good, next year we will need a grant for an education project, the year after we want to build the school building, so we will need some money, then you can also systemically plan how you approach donors. Because if you already know that in 2 years you will need some money for education or for building a school, you can start approaching people now, because then you already have the relationship in 1 year and 2 years when you actually want to send the proposal. Think about it systemically and include everybody, because networking is nothing that should be done only by the board or only by project staff. It's something where everybody can pitch in, but you have to find a system to kind of consolidate this information so that it doesn't stay with everybody, but that you have one database where you can collect it. So what are the easiest ways to connect with donors? It's sometimes, so in the fundraising cycle, you start with donor research. We have courses and also free webinars on that. So if you're more interested in this topic, just check out the videos we have on our YouTube channel, or check out our course list. So you find, let's say you have 10, 15, 20 potential donors where you think, oh, these might be a good fit. Some of them might have an open call. So in these cases, it's pretty straightforward. They have guidelines. They tell you what they want to hear from you, and you just do that, and you're good. It's also, you have to think about, people always ask me, so if they have a call, should I, like if they have an open call for applications, should I still try to network with that donor before? And I would say if they have an open call, normally it doesn't hurt, but if you annoy them, yes, it hurts. So just calling them over and over to make sure they've already heard your name will not help you in that case. Again, that's another reason why you should think of this systemically and as a long-term thing. If they've already known you from 5 years ago, from 2 years ago, then that might help you, even though I think if there's an open call, then they are very straightforward about what they want, and I don't think that there's a lot to be gained by personal connection if the call is open for everybody, because then they really have to look at the specifics of the proposal, and they have a grading system, and a lot writes on your proposal. But nevertheless, it doesn't hurt if they've already heard your name, if they've already worked with you before. But don't badger them if there's an open call and you don't have a specific question. I don't think it helps you a lot to contact them all over again, because then they will just get annoyed. But let's say from those 15 potential donors, 5 have an open call, 10 don't. You see that they fund in your area, they fund in your country, they've supported projects similar to yours, but they don't say exactly how they want to be approached. So that's when the issues start. You should always try to find a contact person at that organization. If you send an email to the info@ address, you will almost never get an answer, or you will just get a straight rejection. So you should always try to find a contact person or some kind of personal connection to that donor. So the first thing you should always do is use your own resources. Many times that is not done properly. I've talked about this in the context of donor research as well, but it's the same for donor networking. The field of philanthropy, of working in this area, is very connected. So maybe you don't know anybody at that donor's office, but maybe your employees do, maybe your board members do, maybe some of your supporters do, maybe a former donor who's already supported you can recommend you to that donor that you want to connect with. So there's so many ways that you might already have the resources to connect with these potential donors, and you should also use them. Try to find this personal hook and say, oh, you already know the project officer at that donor's office, so can you please introduce me? Can you connect us? Can we have a Skype call together? If you're in the same city, maybe ask if you can have a coffee together, whatever. Just get that personal connection, get that hook to get access to the donor. And again, if you really don't have a personal connection through your staff, through your board, whatever, it's still important to find the right contact person. Because if you just contact anybody, it's so easy for them to dismiss you, or to just not read the email, delete it immediately, not answer to it. And it's very important to get the correct email address of that person. Because again, even if you find the right person and then send to the info@ address, please forward, they will not do that. They have a lot of work, they're very busy. You have to be very lucky for that to work. So it is important to first find the right person and then find the right email address to connect with them. Who's the right person? That's not always very straightforward. Sometimes donors have very good homepages where you can see, oh, this person is working for these projects, so then it's very straightforward. This is the person who works only for Nepal, only for India, so then it's pretty straightforward. Sometimes they have email addresses on the homepage immediately, so then you can just send them an email and be more specific and be more personal. Sometimes they don't, and then but then it's still most of the times pretty easy to find out their email format. So normally organizations always have the same way of putting an email. So it's either like the first letter of the first name dot last name @organization.com or something like that. And normally you can find that format if you just look around a little bit on the homepage. If you find one email address of an organization, normally you can deduct the other email addresses from that one. There's also some search machines on the internet that you can use that will tell you the specific format of that organization, and then you can connect personally with the people. You always try to find that hook. No, it might be the person who is responsible for your area of work. Sometimes, for example, if you are working in the United States and you want to apply with a donor in the United States, but your project is in Nepal, and you see, oh, someone is from Nepal, that might be a hook. If you see you've been to the same university like someone, that might be an introduction. But it's always more difficult for people who receive email to just ignore them if there's some kind of personal detail in there that they feel more compelled to answer to. So try to find the right contact person for you, for your project, for your question, and find the correct email address and put in the work. Don't just use the info address, because those rarely get forwarded, and you will rarely get the right contact person if you just send to that address. Then there's some final tips for connecting with donors and how to word your emails. We have a couple of examples on our homepage, proposals4ngos.com as well, where you can see how you can word your email to be sure that donors will respond. The first thing you have to think about is when you first try to connect with a donor, try to make yourself known. Don't make it all about the money. It's the same thing I said in the beginning. Nobody likes that. The donors don't want to feel like they're cash cows that can be milked by you or by anybody, basically. Don't make your first question, can you fund me? Because then you will probably always just be ignored or just get a no. Think of different ways to collaborate. So there's other things that you can work on with donors. So you could say, for example, you could frame it the way that you say, we work in the same field. Can we exchange our experience? Can we exchange approaches? Can we exchange data? You can also think about ways that you can support the donor. Maybe they are looking for data. Data is always something that you can share that doesn't cost you a lot, or sometimes doesn't cost you anything, but helps a lot, because data is something that donors, they want to know the statistics, and you are the person in the field, so you can actually support them. And this always shows that you're a good partner, that you are not only looking for your own benefit, but that you are trying to think of ways to enter a partnership and to make sure that the donor also benefits from your partnership. So there's many different ways to collaborate that you can think of and that you can start with. Also, even if it's just about the money, even if you get to that question of money quite quickly, it should never be your first question. You should always ask them for something that they can say yes to, that is more reasonable and that they will not just ignore. So like I said, it shouldn't be, can you fund me? You can ask for something reasonable, like can we have a Skype meeting? Can we discuss our approach? Can we meet for a coffee if you're in the same town? Even though a personal meeting is already a lot to ask. But you should start with something small that they can say yes to without bending backwards. And then you have a much better chance to get that kind of entry level, and from there you can lift it to the next level. Of course, they also know that in the end you probably want money from them. You probably want something from them, because that is also the way this works, that there are donors who give money and there are NGOs who need that money. You don't have to beat around the bush with that either. You should just make sure that they know that you are interested in holistic cooperation and not just in them giving you money and then you walking away. Also, be specific in your questions when you address them in the beginning. If you just ask, if you send an email and you just say, can we collaborate? or can we cooperate? I would like to discuss with you, without really suggesting, can we have a Skype meeting? Can we have a meeting at this conference? Could we talk for 5 minutes? If you're not specific, it's very easy to just dismiss an email. You imagine if you get 100 emails a day, and 90 emails say, can we collaborate? And 10 emails say, can we meet? Can I call you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock? It's much easier to say yes to that because it's very specific and the other person has already done the planning kind of. And it's easier for you to say yes to that. If you are asked for collaboration, you have to think about which ways can we collaborate? How could we help them? How could they help us? And you have to put in a lot of thought into the how of the question. And mostly people at donors' offices don't have time for that. They go for the easy way. So if you ask for something small, something specific that they can say yes to, that can be an easy first step to establish that relationship. Yeah, and find your right point of entry. So like I said, think a little, try to research that donor very well and find your point of entry. Maybe you use the same approach that nobody else uses. Maybe, yeah, you've had staff overlap in the past. Maybe you work in a specific community that nobody else works in but the donor. Maybe there's, some other kind of topical overlap that is interesting. And if you research well, and if you go deep, and if you find that specific piece of information, your chances are much higher that the donor will answer to your cold email. Yeah, and use different channels to approach donors. So there's the possibility to go to conferences, to workshops, etc. There's cold emails. You can try to arrange calls. It's always good to just be out there at workshops and just spread word about your work and establish your network not only with other NGOs, but also and not only with donors, but also with other NGOs, because they also might have ideas for you. I've had the case several times that an NGO approached me and said, okay, they have an open call, but we're not really the perfect fit, but you might be. So passing around information goes a long way, because at one point you might be able to call that favor back in. Yeah, and what does that mean for you and for your networking and for you going forward now? So I think the most important things that you should keep in mind are that everybody in your organization is part of this. Of course, maybe you might have a fundraising manager, maybe you have a fundraising officer, maybe project staff is responsible for fundraising in your organization. But fundraising is such a holistic task that it's always good to keep everybody on board. Of course, not everybody does the same work, but especially with networking, you can use everybody's resources. Just make sure that everybody knows that they have a little task and a little responsibility every time when they go out to a conference, to a workshop, to represent your organization, to collect some information, to establish a network where your organization is placed within. Then we have here update your prospect table every 6 months. In the webinar and also in our online course, we talk a lot about how to organize your donor research. And we organize that in a prospect table. This prospect table should have a column as well for this more specific information, contact persons, point of entry, all these things. Because again, if you work for a tiny NGO and you do it all yourself, even then you will lose track. But just imagine if 5 people are in on this and do networking, you will just completely lose track. So it's very important to kind of catalog this information. So if you have in your prospect table, like we had the example before, 15 organizations, 5 have an open call and you know what to do, and 10 you have to find a connection to. So you could just let in your staff on this and say, okay, we'll try to connect with donor agency XYZ. Do you know anybody there? Oh, great. You've worked with them before? Okay, please try to connect. And then you put that down in your prospect table. Janet is going to connect with the donor XYZ. And then you know what's happening, so you can always keep track, and that will help you to know where you are and to know your future tasks. Monitor for conferences, workshops, other opportunities, things where you might want to go to to get more connections, to get more to get to know more people, and to get to spread the message about your work. Always follow up and make sure you nurture your network. No, connecting once is not enough. Sometimes you have to check back. Sometimes people want something from you. Sometimes you will get an email. You have to get back to it. You also have to be a good partner. No, it's not only about reaching out, but also about being a responsible partner who answers questions, who gets back to people. And be ready to support and help as well. That's what I said before. Try to think of ways how you can be a good partner as well. Because one day you might be able to ask for the favor back, or maybe you just established yourself as a good and reliable partner, and that will help you a lot in your future work. Okay, so I hope this gave you an idea of basically what the parts or what the importance of donor networking is and why you should include it in your fundraising strategy. You probably know that we have several online courses where we teach all these things in much more detail, because this was just it was an introduction. I kind of went very quickly about a couple of things just to give you an overview, but of course there's much more information. There are more tools that you can use that can be very helpful. So we have many different online courses, but the biggest and most comprehensive one that covers the entire cycle of fundraising is the 5 obstacles on your way to fundraising success and how to overcome them. And I just would like to quickly pitch this one to you, because I feel like this is a really great course that gives you the complete overview of fundraising. We talk about donor research, we talk about networking, of course, eligibility, how to write the proposal, and how to develop a strategy in the beginning, because this is very important if you want to move forward with your fundraising in a strategic way, and not just do something here, do something there, and then get lost again and lose a lot of time. So in that course, we have 5 modules covering all the important aspects of fundraising. In each module, we have a video where experts share their inside knowledge. We have more than 70 pages of supporting materials, cheat sheets for every module. Then we have 10 samples of successful proposals and concept notes, and templates as well for the different parts of the proposal and parts of the fundraising process. Each module ends with a quiz where you need to have 80% to pass. And there's homework assignments that will help you to apply the knowledge to your project. And if you enter this course, you will also get access to an exclusive Facebook group where you can discuss with peers and with us. We answer questions there as well. And you'll get a copy of our ebook, The NGO Guide to Proposal Writing. This is just an example of the videos. This is Eric, one of our most experienced experts. He has worked almost 2 decades in this field and has raised millions and millions of dollars for different NGOs. Then we have lectures, quizzes, and downloads. So you can keep the materials on your computer. You also have access to this course for lifetime. So if you buy them once, they don't expire. You always have access to them. Then we have the Facebook group where you see we have very vivid discussions about different topics. Sometimes it's about the course itself. Sometimes it's about other aspects of fundraising. So people can discuss there, and we pitch in, other students pitch in, and it can be very interesting. Normally this course costs $199. It's very comprehensive. It's the materials in there are worth much more, and you get access to experts who can teach and guide you through your fundraising struggles. But with this webinar, we have a very special offer. We have all of our courses on discount today because you participated in this webinar. You will get the coupon code, which is PFN users. So with the coupon code PFN users, you can get 30% off of any course. We have this flagship course for $199, But we also have cheaper courses. We have a course specifically for brand new NGOs for $20. We have this amazing course about humanitarian aid that I talked about before, about how you can prepare for potential disaster. That will be very helpful for anybody working in an at-risk country. We have courses about funding from USAID, from the European Commission, from European foundations, more specific on the fundraising strategy, etc., etc. So yeah, please go to our website and check out what we have on offer there. And with the coupon code PFN users, you can get 30% off of all the courses that are on offer there, but just for 1 week. So you have to hurry. If you want to use this offer, then just hop over there and choose from the amazing variety we have there. So we also have all the modules from our 5-module course as single courses. So the module this webinar was based on is, of course, donor networking, but we have donor research, fundraising strategy, which is very important, eligibility, and the actual writing of a proposal, as well as modules. And you can also get those at 30% off if you check our website now. Again, the coupon code is PFN users. Yeah, this is just an example of our entire course program. You can see we have more courses. How to find 50 donors in 10 minutes is one of our free courses. We have 2 free courses that you can sign up for no cost to just see how we do it, if you like it, if this is something for you, if it works for you, and you can just sign up for free. Okay, so now we have time for questions in the end. Oops. This was one too far. I will see if I can switch back to the camera. Yes. And then I hope I can also see your questions. It's sometimes a bit tricky here. Okay. So do you have any questions for me that I could answer now? I think I just managed to actually see the comment roll. There's one question from CEDC Development. Whom can I talk to about NGO matters? Well, that's a very broad question. It's a bit difficult for me to answer, but we have the website proposals4ngos.com. If you go there, you can see that we have many articles about different topics. So we cover everything related to the fundraising cycle. So I think you can already find a lot of information there. And then if you're interested in further information, you can always look at our online course program, where we also have many topics covered. And like I said, we have 2 free courses as well. So if you're interested in that, you can try them out first and see if this is something for you. And then maybe move to a more specific course after that. But again, proposals4ngos.com, we have a lot of information on everything connected to NGOs, but we focus on fundraising and proposal writing mostly. Well, thank you. But it looks like there are no more specific questions for today. But I'm very happy that you all participated. I hope you've learned about donor networking. Yeah, I hope you've learned everything you wanted to know about donor networking and understand the importance of it a little bit now. If you have further questions, just make sure you follow us on here on YouTube. You click the subscribe button. You follow us on Facebook. This is where we will announce more of these webinars. And just stay tuned. And we have a lot of interesting things coming up in 2020 that we're very excited to share with you. Thank you very much for attending, and I hope to see you next time. We have these free webinars once a month, so just make sure you sign up for our newsletter, sign up for, follow us on Facebook, and subscribe to this channel to not miss any of these webinars, so we can keep sharing our knowledge with you. Thank you very much, and have a good day.